So, guys, welcome again here to the Africans. This is Akwesi here, and today we have from Curaçao Football News, we have Jaden Faneta, who is here to talk a little bit about the Curaçao National Program as we have Nations Leagues coming up. Jaden, first of all, welcome to the program. We're going to enjoy talking a little bit of CONCACAF football with each other.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Perfect. So, it's interesting when you look at a team like Curacao because we forget sometimes how high of a high they were running on. I mean, they had
Yeah.
World Cup qualifiers where they lost out to Panama, who were performing well, 3-2 in aggregate. They just couldn't get another goal in that second matchup. And then they were a lot of people's darlings picks going into the Gold Cup in 2021, but then an outbreak took the team out of the tournament and left a lot of us forgetting about how good of a pace they were playing at. Talk to me a little bit about Curacao, like since that moment, not being in the Gold Cup and kind of progressing through the year since then. If you want to cover the Gold Cup, feel free to, but like how has Curacao been doing since World Cup qualifiers and then not being able to perform in the Gold Cup?
Before that World Cup qualifier match against Panama, we had plenty of informed players, and everybody was looking forward to that game. You know, we've started this whole project in 2010, and it's been growing so much, and players, you know, more and more players are picking the Curacao national team, and we have gotten more and more professional players and more professional players of with plenty of experience and quality. And so yeah, that match against Panama was like, you know, it was huge. It was huge, and yeah, I was there in the stadium for the second leg. It was heartbreaking, and you think the people in the stadium and the people of Curacao were heartbroken for sure, but the players there seemed even more heartbroken than the people. You can just see how much it meant to them. So yeah, they had some time off with their family. Curacao being a wide known vacation destination, most of the players just flew their family over for some quality time, and then it was back to preparing for the Gold Cup. And yeah, then there were players for preparing for the Gold Cup. There were trainings in the U.S. And then after a few games before our first match, there was an outbreak. And yeah, there were too many infected players for us to continue with the Gold Cup, which was another heartbreak. So yeah, it was back to back, pretty frustrating ones. Afterwards, we also we organized some friendlies against Bahrain and New Zealand in Bahrain, and our first keeper Eloy Rome, who has been with the national team, he has played every single national team game since he decided to play for Curacao, was not there. He could not be there. Uh, so we had to start with our second keeper, who has gone through the PSV Academy, and he he hasn't done much good since he went away from the academy. He has been a bit of error prone in the few matches that he played for us before Eloy. So people were pretty skeptical with him coming on instead of Eloy, with him starting the match instead of Eloy. And yeah, he did not perform very well. He made some errors, so we ended up getting a very unnecessary loss against Bahrain. And our third choice keeper is actually in PSV's second team.
Okay.
He just came through from the under 18 the season before, and with the second keeper not performing very well for the third match, for the second match, for second friendly in the match against New Zealand, Patrick Kluivert decided to try him out. It's a friendly, so why not? see what he can do. And he actually did very well against, a Premier League striker that New Zealand has called Chris Wood.
Yeah.
And yeah, he for a very young, 19-year-old, he performed very well under the pressure that we was under. So yeah, very promising goalkeeper that we have there, and one of many promising goalkeepers that we have. Uh, yeah, afterwards there was the federation was more focused on the women's national team and the under 20 national team that had to
Yeah.
play quite a few games. And with we us being a very small island, we get some funding from FIFA,
Yeah.
but the government itself and the federation itself doesn't have very much funding, a lot of funding. So yeah, they focus much of their football on the under 20 national team and the women's national team, and we didn't play any friendly since. And with the under 20 national team, it was exciting because we got one of Feyenoord under 18's best players and free kick specialist in Giore named Felicia.
Okay.
And I've actually spoken to him a week before he got called up. I didn't know he was getting called up, and I asked him if he'd consider playing for Curacao. That was after the derby against Ajax under 18, which
Yeah.
he played very well coming on. And he was like, "Yeah, totally, I love to." And the week after, I heard he was called up, so that was great to see. And he actually performed with FC Utrecht under 21 striker that we had playing alongside him, and Dordrecht under 18 left winger. And yeah, we just had a very, I'd say, star-studded under 20 team with a lot of players from under 18 teams of Dutch Eredivisie teams.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was exciting to see that we have plenty of players willing to play for our national team in the future. They are currently in professional team academies, and they did very well. So in the upcoming weeks, they'll have to play the knockout matches of the under 20 championship in CONCACAF. So it'll be exciting to see how they do, and if possibly one of them could get called up for the Nations League as well.
No, they do. They are close in terms of starting because there's the June and then June coming in. So yeah, you could see, because I know some countries are thinking about doing the dual, having a friendly and then having Nations League afterwards. So he may be in camp even for some of those if they decide to combine.
But the knockout stages of the championship will be in Honduras, and we'll have to play against Honduras with the first team as well there. So they'll be together in Honduras. So I don't know if maybe the federation will do something together with them or if they'll turn apart. But it'll be a good opportunity for Langeler to get to know the under 20 players as well, maybe, as well as the players he had currently selected. So, or he will select. So yeah.
No, that's definitely true. You did mention the manager. So Clivert was there on an interim basis, but then they finally were able to name a manager, so Art Langler, as well as having the former coach come back as essentially as the manager for the program. Tell me about those two working together a bit. Do you think that's a good fit, working relationship based off their experiences?
On paper, Langler has a pretty good past, having coached Peg Zwolle. He has guided them to promotion from the Dutch second division to the first division. He has even beaten Ajax in the final of the Dutch Cup, which was huge back then, and he was the coach of that team. So from them to go from promotion to second division to beating Ajax in the Dutch Cup, that's pretty huge, and that he has managed to do that is already very big. And then becoming the head of academy for PSV That's also, I'd say the second biggest club in the Netherlands. So
Uh,
that's a pretty big appointment there for him when he was the director of the academy of PSV. And what's funny is that of all the Dutch professional clubs in the Netherlands that have players that can play for our national team, PSV has the most.
huh.
So that he was the head of academy for PSV a few years ago,
Yeah.
he already knows plenty of those players like
Uh-huh.
Jeremy Antonissen and Nigel Thomas that have been with the national team before, and that our third keeper that played very well against New Zealand that's also in PSV.
Uh-huh.
And then you have Natangelo Marquillo, Livano Comenencia, uh, Sherendi Sambo. So yeah, and that's just the second team. Then there's still the under 18s and the under 16s,
Yeah.
full of Curaçao players, or players that can play for a national team. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's great that Langeler has been the head of the PSV Academy director, and then yeah, you was also the Dutch under 21 national team coach too,
Yeah.
and we have quite a few players that have played in that under 21 national team. So yeah, it's great. On paper, he sounds perfect for the job really, and him and Hiddink both being Dutch nationality and the Dutch culture, it's drilled into everyone's head. 4-2-3. That's the only formation. That's the Dutch DNA.
Yeah.
4-2-3, and most of our players were brought to Dutch academies playing 4-2-3. So yeah, that's already a click, and almost all our players are speak Dutch fluently.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, them having worked together before with Hiddink being a Dutch national team coach interim and Langerleer the under 21, they're familiar with each other in the past.
No, that's good. And you mentioned again the time at the academy, the time coaching U21 for the Netherlands. So there's definitely a lot of connections. Do you think the people in Curacao are excited out of the possibilities of seeing, because they're from there, they're now starting to look at those academies and looking at those U21 programs and saying they're not playing much. They're not playing much. Maybe we can get him. Maybe we can get him, add them to the program, and then really be something. Or is it more cautionary, kind of being waiting till something is announced before they get excited in that sense?
There's actually plenty of skepticism regarding
Mhm.
Langeler because he's been fired earlier this season
Yeah.
and he doesn't have any Curacao connections, which Kluivert and Vicentini did have.
Uh-huh.
With Kluivert having a Curacao mom and Vicentini having his father from Curacao, so they kind of grew up with some of the culture at least. And both Hiddink and Langeler did not.
Yeah.
So the people from the island having at least some Curacao connection is pretty important for them. And so they were like, we're not sure how well he'll fit in with the culture. But if you look
Mm.
at it performance wise, him knowing plenty of our players already and having worked with some of them closely, like Lachman
Mm.
and Castaner, it should be great. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see who he picks too.
Oh.
Yeah,
No, that's fair. I mean, any new appointee gets people excited. I mean, I'm Canadian, but then I'm Canadian, but my parents are Ghanaian, so I follow that team a lot as well. So, I mean, we have the same type of skepticism. I mean, we're a little bit more happy with Ado and how he's doing, but yeah, there's always that. Let's see the first squad before we would decide if we like
yeah,
him or not.
yeah,
I mean, on the pitch is one thing, but the critics will always be there, depending on who gets called, who doesn't get called. You try to
yeah,
glean a little bit based off of what's there. So I totally understand that aspect of it. So you have a new manager, you have a new management team for the program, and we're heading into Nations League right now. How does Curacao feel in this group? They have Honduras, they have Canada. How do they feel being in this grouping? Do they feel like they can win this grouping and go on to the semis? Do they think they're maybe top two, definitely going to the Gold Cup, or three having to go the long way? What do you think? What do you think? And then what do you think people think this Curacao team can do in Nations League?
There's a lot of excitement, but a lot of doubt as well. Because a lot of our current players, we have quite a few current players that are injured or haven't played much, who are usually regulars or in the first 11 of our national team. But at the same time, we have a lot of players that are usually reserves or on the bench or haven't played much with our national team before, who are in great form and
Yeah,
are scoring and assisting much. And we have one of the most exciting wingers currently in that second division, with Margarita, who plays for
yeah,
Top Os. And yeah, he's their main man right now. And last season, he was released by Almere. So he already proved his old club wrong this season. And he may be
mm,
getting a move to the Eredivisie soon. Same counts for Kevin Filida with Den
mm,
Bosch, who's also a great midfield engine. And he may be getting a move to the Eredivisie soon. He could have gotten one last season. Also had some interest from French clubs. We did a thread on that on our Twitter page. But
yeah.
yeah, we have him too. So yeah, he hasn't played much for our national team. He's only come on a few times because we have Ferdinand Anita in his position. So guy with Premier League experience there, who has
Mhm.
played a long time for Ajax, who is currently playing in the Eredivisie for a few seasons already.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, Felida would come on a lot, but yeah, it's exciting to see, all of a lot of our players currently in form, and then we have a lot of potential players that could pick for us. Um,
Yeah.
Recently, there has been a lot of rumor that Chong could eventually pick for Curacao. Yeah, um, yeah, he has been in great form in Birmingham with Junia Bakuna before getting injured. But yeah, there has been a sort of CONCACAF connection in Birmingham with a Cuban striker, Junia Bakuna
Yeah.
midfield, and Chong on the wing, and Lyle Taylor from Montserrat too.
Yeah.
Montserrat, I think it's Montserrat or Bermuda, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's great to see. So Chong was born on the island. Many people don't know this, but Chong was born on the island, grew up there. Actually played
Okay.
in a local team there. Um, he played a few. Um, he was a few years older than me, but he played in the same organization that I played in. I actually
Oh,
saw him
okay.
play live. Yeah, so he speaks the language fluently. But yeah, he
Mm,
was scouted at a young age for Feyenoord and then picked up by Manchester United. And
mm,
you know, with development, if you were approached by any of the Dutch youth systems, it'd be great for development playing against Italy, Italian or Spanish or French youth setups
mm.
instead of CONCACAF setups. So I understand that he chose to play for the Dutch youth setup in the past. But yeah, having ever since he outgrew the Dutch under 21 team, he hasn't even been close to getting selected for the Dutch national team. He's been injured a lot. He's been on loan for Manchester. He has a lot of competition on the wings with if he eventually decides to go on with the Dutch national team with Noah Lang for Brugge and then Juma currently for Villarreal and Memphis Depay and yeah, it's not looking
Yeah.
like he'll even make the bench anytime soon. So it's very likely that he'll pick for us and him performing very well in the championship. It's very exciting for our local people to
Yeah,
see
I
if
would
he picks for us.
imagine.
Yeah, and then we have
Mhm.
Joshua Burnett with FC Twente currently. They're usually a Dutch mid-table team, and he came
Mm.
to them having ended up in a serve role at Hoffenheim. And FC Twente are currently doing phenomenal, fighting for third place right now, which would
Yep.
mean a potential Europa League spot next year. And yeah, they're currently one of the best Dutch clubs in the Eredivisie. And Joshua Bennett is playing every game. He's one of their main players,
Mm.
and he hasn't even been in the pre-squad for the Dutch national team. So yeah, he speaks the language fluently as well from Curaçao. So he could be selected. Cuco Martina is playing every game for Go Ahead Eagles. That's a Dutch club that got promoted last year, who
Mm.
everyone thought at the start of the season, oh, they're relegation candidates. They're currently doing well at mid-table. They drew against Ajax earlier in the season. They actually won against Ajax a few weeks ago, with Cuco Martina defending very well against the likes of Tadic and Haller. So, and he's our national team captain, and he's
Mm.
performing so well. We have Gino Sicilia in the Slovakian first division, who's performing very well there. Kenji Guri is performing very well in Boa Vista in the Portuguese first division. Junia Bakuna is performing better than people expected when he came on. When
Mhm.
he signed for Birmingham. Eli Rome has been a bit shaky for Columbus, making a few mistakes, but performing very well after he made those few mistakes. So we have Lachman, that's currently Perth Glory in the Australia's first division, best player at center back,
Yep.
performing very well every game at center back. So yeah, it's we have plenty of informed players, and then we have informed players that can pick for us as well that Langele is familiar with. So yeah, a lot of excitement, and yeah, hoping that the few ones that are injured recover and that Tai Chung will recover from his injury soon enough that we if he decides to play for us or if he already has that he could get selected for the Nations League.
Definitely. You kind of stole the question I was about to ask you, which is like, are there players you'd love to see come in? I usually like a thing,
Yeah,
like I say, 4 players that you think you'd love to come in. Either a player that's playing well, a player because I mean, most of us here, like we know the Bakuna brothers, we know Quaz, and like all those players are there. But you going through those other potential ones, it is exciting for them. Do you
yeah.
think right now where they're sitting, they can finish first in this group? Think second is more likely, or do you think third is the reality? Where do you think they end up finishing in this group?
We a few years ago in the Gold Cup when we played against Honduras, uh, we struggled, but yeah, we managed to get away with a win in the Gold Cup and eventually drawing against Jamaica to go through to the knockout stages.
Mhm.
And then our team was weaker than it was right now, and Honduras hasn't done well uh, in recent qualifications, and
Mhm.
they've had some turmoil in their federation from what I've heard. Uh, so yeah, our federation hasn't been doing well either, but right now it's been getting back on track. We have plenty of informed players and players playing at high levels. So I think we'll be going for the 3 points against Honduras, at least at home. I know
Mhm.
for sure that playing in Honduras is always hostile,
Mhm.
with the climate there and the people there and everybody being very fanatic. And the players, especially at home, always giving their all for their country. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's going to be tough there, but I think at home we could get away with the win. And yeah, it's yeah. I think against Canada it will be a bit harder, especially with your guys great attacking players and a decent
Mhm.
midfield and Davis in defense. But apart from Alfonso Davies, um, the defense of Canada, from what I've seen, isn't that great. It's decent. Like you guys have plenty of professional players, but um, they're not. Apart from Alfonso Davies playing for at high levels in Europe, they're playing in the MLS, which is decent too. But if we have, if the attacking players that we have currently playing at high levels and decent levels, right, in Europe, um, play well against Canada, we could have a chance to exploit the Canada defense. But in terms of, I think it'd be a game with plenty of attack, box to box attack, I'd say. But
Yeah,
if we manage to get through the high press or Canada's pressing, yeah, of the attackers, but yeah, if Canada's defense continues to be as solid as they did in the World Cup qualifiers, yeah, I think we'd have to be happy with a point. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how what players are selected and how Langale
that's
does.
true.
Yeah, it all depends on the
Yeah, and
players we select.
I think that's the mystery of it all. Seeing Lagler with this group now, again, in the same way that a lot of people are seeing Canada playing at this high level with Herdman for the first time, but seeing them progress there. So I think if you're Curacao, you're looking at that saying there were weak spots. Maybe we can exploit them in one way. And at the same
Yeah,
breath, I think definitely for you, second place is in play. I mean, like you said,
yeah,
the state of Honduras right now is what it is. I think there is definitely opportunities for Curacao to sneak in and take that second spot and be there.
yeah,
Over Canada, we'll see. It's hard for me to put a real, and that's kind of why I wanted to have you on and kind of talk about them, because it's hard to really evaluate Curacao, because at the point when everything kind of shut down for them after World Cup qualifiers, they were a lot of. I mean, there are some people saying, okay, Canada could do well, but give me that Curacao. I wanted, a lot of us, and me included, we wanted to see Curacao versus Mexico in the group stages because we thought it would be an interesting matchup both ways with Curacao playing at that peak where they were. So it's
yeah,
kind of hard, and it's the mystery, which is how fast can they get back there? Will they get back there? Or is there another level that Longwear can unlock with this group? Like the players that they can go. And if they're able to do that, as I call it, the second ranking of CONCACAF teams, right? You have US, Mexico, Canada, whatever order you want them. But then that next group becomes very much interesting with your Jamaicas, your El Salvadors, your Panamas, Costa Ricas, throwing
yeah,
Curacao there. That second group becomes very interesting. And for CONCACAF, as long as teams get better, it keeps those top teams on their heels a bit and on their toes to continue to keep on pushing the envelope there. So I'm excited to see this group because I want to see which Curacao we see on the pitch.
yeah. And to think that Panama did so well in the World Cup qualifiers, and they just
Mm-hmm.
went through against us in the playoffs, and we
Mm,
may be stronger than when we played Panama last year. You know, I think yeah, it'd be exciting to see how it goes. But yeah, we definitely cannot be underestimated, I guess. But yeah,
no, definitely will not be underestimating Curacao. You don't underestimate any CONCACAF
yeah,
teams
no,
until the game is
no,
done,
you never know how it
right?
goes.
Because
Yeah,
they're exactly.
yeah,
There's quality players everywhere, and even like again, all those players at Birmingham, right? Championship is still a good level, and then
yeah, for
everyone, the
sure.
familiarity, and that's the interesting thing looking at, especially like Suriname and Curacao, because most of their players are coming from that Dutch system. It's easy
Yeah,
for them to just be incorporated in and just be able to produce and play decently to good. And if you have a solid unit that way, that's what makes teams like that dangerous versus just players coming from all over and then finding a system that works well. If they all know what they're playing, they know the movements, they know kind of a bit of what their players' strengths are, at least on a solid level, it makes them difficult to play against because they are comfortable in playing in that way. So I'm like I said, they are definitely a team not to be. I think on paper, based off of how they were looking, I understand why
Mm.
people might say it's Canada, Honduras, Curacao, but for me, before a game is matched, I'm saying Canada, Curacao, then Honduras until Honduras shows me that they are like interested and they aren't disinterested in terms of how they're playing. So I'm giving Curacao a lot of credit, and I think they definitely do deserve it. But again, the ball is played on the pitch, and the game is played there. So when the ball is dropped, we'll see how they're able to do. And
Yeah,
I'm excited for the matchup because if they were able to hold Panama the way that they did, Panama gave Canada
yeah,
trouble.
yeah,
I know the results are lopsided. The 4-1 lopsided win in Toronto is one thing, and then the 1-0 loss is another. But Panama did give them trouble. So
yeah,
if a team that just got past another team is able to give the team that finished with the most points in qualifiers a little bit of trouble, like you said, you have to keep that in mind when you're looking at the team and saying, yes, they may be ranked here, but remember their quality and what they did at that point. So definitely going to be something we'll be watching out for. I'm looking forward to when that starts off. But yeah, Jaden, thank you for being here. If people are looking to follow more things on the Curacao national team, where can they find you?
yeah. I'm running a Twitter page with fellow admin about Curacao. Yeah, we post about our national team, but also how our players are performing that have played with the national team before or can play with the national team, and also under 20 players and our women's national team. So, yeah, that's
Mhm.
on Twitter at Curaçao Football, and the second L in football being replaced with a one. Yeah,
Yes. Perfect. I'll put that in the description so everyone can find them there. And again, you guys can find us at the Africans on Twitter. We are I don't remember our Twitter handle. African, so Afri0cans, that's the handle, and we all manner of Canadian content as well as we dabble with African football and content because we wouldn't be that if we weren't doing that. But Jaden, again, thank you for the time. Maybe I'll have you on once we get closer to U20s and we can talk about some U20 players to watch as we get closer to that tournament as well. But thank you for the time you spent with us. Looking forward to it, guys. Make sure you give them a follow and follow all things Curacao as we get close to Nations League. And it's just a Kwesi from the African saying goodbye for now.